And a good Saturday afternoon out there, everyone. Welcome to Native News Today. I am, as always, your host, Jason Salzman, and want to thank you guys for joining us once again here. And got a great lineup for you this week, and we're going to get right into that starting right now. We went up to Oklahoma City to the Skirvin Hilton Hotel right there in downtown for the Preparing for the 7th Generation Tobacco Conference. Now, this was a sharing of information with scientists, researchers, and other things about the dangers of commercial tobacco and dependence on that. And a lot of tribal entities, a lot of tribes were there, and their tobacco prevention programs. They're getting information on better ways to educate the public about the dangers of commercial tobacco. And we were very pleased to be there and had a lot of great information and bring that to you today. Also, we went to the Art Under the Oaks in Muskogee. Jared Moore went out there and at the Five Civilized Tribes Museum. And if you haven't been out there, it's a pretty cool place. And John Timothy and some of those folks over there, we've visited them before, and they do a great job out there. And John was out playing his flute, and Mike Berryhill, the guy that does our bows here on the show, he was out as well, and a lot of people visiting that great event, and Jared did a good job putting that together, so we'll take a look at that as well. And also, speaking of Mike Berryhill, we're going to wrap up our series on the arrow making that he's been doing with the bows and completing that project for documentary footage that Jared's been doing there for the video division here at the Muskogee Creek Nation and the district court. They've done a lot of work putting that together, Judge Patrick Moore, and really has a burden for that and wants to see it put out on video and kept and archived for future generations. So we're going to show the last leg of that, and that'll be all on this week's episode of Native News Today. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back after this first break.
Club Trifecta, and it looks like there's dance-off going on. And there's MC Butts looking like he's about to butt in somewhere he don't belong. It looks like MC Butts has got beat down, and I knew there was something smelly about this dance-off competition, and it was MC Butts. Now Club Trifecta is a great place to be healthy and get your groove.
For the 7th Generation was the name for this year's tobacco conference held in downtown Oklahoma City at the Skirvin Hilton. Beautiful hotel there, and it was a nice setting for this conference and a sharing of information between the Center for Disease Control, several tribes' tobacco prevention programs, as well as scientists and researchers as well, all getting out the information that people need to know on stopping the dependence on commercial tobacco and the dangers that it presents.
Tobacco conference here, and my boys Jason and Jared are here covering all the action, and it's like a great turnout for the conference. You know, a lot of people here learning about tobacco prevention and control, and how it is important to the culture and the history of the tribes, not only in Oklahoma but in the nation. So, very important conference here.
The first thing you need to do is define and ask. When you're working with audiences, you want to define the group you're trying to reach and how you're going to measure the results. Then you need to ask, who is the most likely person or persons that's going to be able to make the desired change happen? Then you're going to ask, how can I describe the group and how large is the group? We want to make sure today that we understand how communication and planning your communication initiatives are all about the quest for treasure. Too many people try to force a message on the audience when the messages and approaches should emerge from the audience. So the audience is really the center and central focus no matter who you're trying to reach.
It's an exciting conference. It's a nice collaboration between with the tribes and the State Health Department in Oklahoma on comprehensive tobacco prevention and control, and all the science base behind comprehensive tobacco control, and how people are working together to really protect folks from commercial tobacco use as well as exposure. And it's so it's a very important thing that I'm glad to be here as a speaker. And there's a lot of sharing of information about how the tribes are working on commercial tobacco prevention and cessation, how to quit, how to protect the youth from taking on commercial tobacco, and that includes smokeless tobacco and other things. There's going to be, the speakers are going to talk about everything from how do you evaluate these programs to how are they finding out how many commercial tobacco users are in various tribes, and how to work together with the elders and leaders to move forward, like in smoke-free environments, those kind of things.
What we're going to do this afternoon is we're going to share a little bit about the Cherokee Nation's tobacco-free policy that we just enforced January the 1st this year. And we have ongoing smoking cessation classes offered to all the employees plus community members so that they have all the resources they need to quit smoking. I've been with the tribe for 29 years and probably in tobacco prevention for about 15 years. And I really never thought that this would be a day that we would have this, but it's been a long way and a good wait, and time does pay off. Tobacco use is a problem among our young children. We have a lot of youth advocacy with the SWAT teams in Cherokee County, as well as Muskogee and other counties. A lot of our youth are the people that is being advocates and able to help get policy changes in the schools.
This event is just so important. We're bringing scientists, researchers, administrators from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the Office of Smoking and Health, to come and talk about what it means to develop and work in a comprehensive tobacco control program. There's so many different aspects to tobacco. Some are new programs that are really looking for something that they can grasp on to help people in their communities and their health care facilities, and we just have the best of the best here. When we started doing tobacco-specific programs 7 years ago, there was really nothing in Oklahoma, and particularly not anything with the tribes in doing tobacco prevention, education, or cessation services. And so we began to develop, and we just brought in our young people to help us develop youth programs, our elders to help develop, culturally competent programs within our health facilities. And Creek Nation has been on the forefront through national, recognition in developing programs. And tribes not only here in Oklahoma, but throughout the country, ask us how we were able to do that, and we really couldn't do it without the help all the way down from our chief to our tribal council to our health directors to the people in the community. They've all been a part of what Creek Nation.
If you've never made a trip to the Five Tribes Museum in Muskogee, you need to do so. It's a really cool place, a lot of history in there, and a lot of great people working as well in that building. And one of the things that they host each year is the Art Under the Oaks, and this is a chance for everybody to come out and enjoy some of the culture that the place there offers. And one of the great things about it is lots of Indian artists, lots of Indian music makers, lots of Indian artifact keepers come out, and this is a great thing for people to come see. And Jared Moore was out there documenting the whole weekend, and we got a chance to get some footage of it, and we'll share it with you right now.
OCO, everybody say OCO. OCO. Very good.
Get closer to film him.
A long time ago, all animals would talk to each other, would tell stories. These are the stories they passed down to us, and we're passing on down to you, so you can tell your children as well. A long time ago, we had an animal to get himself into trouble, cause mischief. We have to figure out a way to get himself out of trouble when he got himself into trouble. This animal is called Rabbits. This young man right here. Come here, young man. Call him G-Stew. Everybody say G-Stew. 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 G-Stew like to sing. G-Stew like to talk. You like to talk? You got the wrong G-Stew. G-Stew love to talk and sing. G-Stew loved to do everything and talk about everything that was best about rabbits.
Rabbits are best in the world.
Nobody can do anything better than rabbits.
Nobody can do things better than rabbits.
Because of this, when they went to the council meetings and had their meetings, Rabbit would get up there and talk for 5 hours for a meeting that's supposed to last like 3 minutes. Animals are sitting there going, oh, when's he going to shut up? Rabbits are best.
Rabbits are best.
Rabbits can sing.
Some rabbits can sing.
And he'd go on and on and on. We had a council meeting, we had Eagle show up. Come here, Eagle. Yes, you. Well, this is a good place to be a clown. Eagle called the meeting. When he called the meeting, we said, we're going to have a meeting.
Where? Okay.
You know this guy?
This is my son Jared.
Perry
Bowlegs.
How are you? But I thought if Alfred would hire me, that I would have a throwing stick contest with the kids.
That's fine. That's good. That's good. I had a visit with Alfred. What day was it? Wednesday. I'm trying to get him to come on the board.
Out there where the pre-K board
We used to have one of those out at the Half Moon under a big tree, and when they'd kill a hog, they'd scald him in there. They also use those for sake and making all kinds of stuff with great big old pots.
Such a light honey color when he first presented it.
If it's that side, it'll get dark quicker.
Well, I want to keep it in a special place. That's Mike Berryhill's work.
What was your name, Melissa? I'm Dave.
And the three
Nice to meet you.
series of the bows. And
You know Heather or Matt? All right.
which I love to do because when the school kids come in, of course, they have their own ideas on how things were done.
All right, to wrap up the show today, we have our next segment in a series of arrow-making documentaries by Mr. Mike Berryhill. And I've said about just as much as I can over the last couple years about this great man and the wonderful work that he does. So I'll just let Mike take over, and you guys enjoy this last segment here.
Feathers. And these here are left wing feathers. And how could I tell? Because they're already cut up. Well, you've got a smooth surface, and then you got a rough surface on one side. And that's how you tell your left from right. And I can tell these because obviously I've done a few arrows and messed with feathers quite a bit. But this here I'll show you. This is the left wing, and I use this portion only. And that's your left feather right there. Just like you see it. But you can spend a long time splitting these things out, and you have to learn how to do that if you're going to do your own arrows. Here's some here that I split in longer lengths, like so, and that there's a right wing feather. These are right wings. See there? Right wing. Of course, it goes with the right wing feather. That's right. These are all right wings. So you need to, like I said before, and I need to put a lot of emphasis on the fact that you need to really learn how to identify right wing, left wing. Don't get them mixed up. Okay.
What is the consequence if you mix them up?
How does what?
What's the consequence if you put a right and a left on the same arrow?
Well, personally, I've never experimented with putting one feather that's opposite from the other one, or just mixing them up. But they say they won't fly right. That's what I've been told. I've never experimented with it though. Quill was real stiff, and it was creating, what happened, it would lift up, and as it flew, and we were having a lot of wind that day, your wind would go underneath that feather and throw it off, and that's all it took is one time.
And that would tumble.
Yeah, and it tumbled. And it took me about 2 or 3 shoots to find out what was going on.
Caused it to stall out.
Yeah,
So the conventional,
stall out.
So the conventional fletching is probably better in high wind.
Yes.
For that reason.
Overall, I think it would be, but
if you're in the lowlands where the Yuchi people live in
yeah,
creek bottoms and what have you, you're not
right,
going to have a wind problem.
Right.
It's heavily forested too.
Say like if you was hunting game I never seen a guy shoot out there 100 yards a game. I mean, but up close, well, these would be okay for that.
And another advantage of that is you could quickly pull that out of your quiver, and you wouldn't have to worry about how you knocked it, because any way you knocked it's
Right.
perfect with that
Right.
method.
Right. That would be an advantage to that. Where with a 3 fletch, you got to pay attention to location, and by that time, well,
Deer might be
but you know, if you're in a hunting situation and you know that you got game, or back then, say 600, 700 years ago, if you were in an area, say like if they were on a path of war, their bows would already be strung, and I would think they'd already have an arrow knocked ready. But that don't necessarily mean after that one arrow's gone, of course you got to shoot a lot of arrows after that. But yeah, this would be an advantage for not having to pay attention to how you knock it. But yeah, I learned something from that in the air, and that's why I made these arrows like this, where I got low cuts. And you got three fletches on this arrow, because on what I call flight arrows, or what we're doing is shooting them arrows down at a long distance. You want that thing to stay in its path, but you don't really want to have an arrow that would drag a whole lot. Like this one here will create a lot of drag, and possibly might slow it down some. And in fact, I think it'd slow it down probably quite a bit. So I went to the low feathers, and that's what I shot down there last week at that cornstalk shoot, with those low cut, 3 fletched, and they were straight fletched arrows. Now, you can go with a right fletch or a left fletch. Right fletch meaning using the right wing feather. Left fletch, obviously, left wing feather, or go with a straight fletch. And so I fletched mine straight. And you couldn't tell, or I couldn't see it when I left the bow. I don't know if Vernon could see it or not. But with a right twist in it, it's going to spin that arrow like a screw in the air. But with the straight fletch, you shouldn't have any hardly at all with a straight fletch. All that thing is doing is guiding it, helping it to stay on that path, that wherever you aim for, it'll stay that way. Now, without getting too much into talking about feathers, this is interesting to me though, because if you're shooting, target shooting, you want accuracy. So I would advise putting a helical on it, or a twist in that feather for accuracy. But for long flight shots downrange, my opinion about it is, I think I'd prefer a straight fletch.
Straight fletch defined as the fletching parallels the shaft.
Yeah.
Whereas the twisted fletching, you're basically putting it slightly on the bias with the shaft.
There you go.
To impart a spin when the arrow leaves the bowstring.
Right.
Like a well-thrown football.
Right. There you go.
Would be more accurate than one without that twisting.
Right. But now we're getting in talking about shooting at a stack down there 3 foot wide and about 3 foot high, and it takes a guy that can shoot with good judgment how far to pull that thing, how much it to elevate it. So why are you worrying about shooting where I wouldn't be, is shooting something this big, say like 4 inches in diameter, maybe, yeah, maybe 20, 30 steps. Yeah, I think I better use a helical for accuracy. But who's to say the straight fletch wouldn't work also for that, up to a point, maybe. But that's some food for thought, I guess, about what you want to do if you go into making arrows. That's what I hope you guys will want to do, is make your own arrows, because they're not that hard to make. But I want to tell this on camera. That's one of the hardest things and the most things probably I dread about this whole thing is making arrows. I'd rather make a bow. And it takes a person with a little bit more dexterity with the fingers to do this. And with a bow, you're getting with it, cutting that, removing all that bulk and all that bolt arc. But with this, it's delicate. It's pretty delicate stuff. And that's where I think a lot of us miss out on the point about arrows are so important. They're really important. They're more of a delicate part. I mean, any bow will shoot a stick. But how about this part of it? You know? I mean, this is important. Your weight. Nowadays, you go with the spine. They talk about spine. But I was reading an article last night in one of my books about this guy who cut him some river cane. Okay, we're getting back to river cane again. River cane is found anywhere eastwards in Carolina, all the way, they say, in the lower part, like from Tennessee on down to Florida, all the way westward to Texas. And they claim there's two kinds of river cane we have that's indigenous to this continent, according to his opinion. Now, biologically, it's called Arundinaria gigantea, which is the tallest. It grows like 12 to 14 feet. And then they got the shorter, and it's called Arundinaria tecta, and it grows from 6 to 12 feet. So I'm thinking the shorter, the tecta, would be the best for arrows. And some of it's got a taper to it, and some of it is pretty straight. But in writing that article, he was talking about the botanist that was amongst the Creeks back in 1770, and the judge probably knows who I'm talking about. His name was William Bartram, and was obviously a botanist. He said there was literally thousands of acres of river cane in the area. And he said you could not penetrate it. You had to cut your way through it. And it was just, and some of it grew up to, they say, 3 inches in diameter, that big at one time. And I can believe it. I can believe that. But anyway, getting back to the fellow who wrote the article, he's pretty well known fellow with the archery and traditional gear, and he tried everything, and his best wood for arrow shafting from, I think he said, Port Orford cedar, which is what we have here on the table, to poplar, to Sitka spruce. And he said he thought Sitka spruce was the best until he made a half a dozen of river cane arrows. And he said he only, by feel and bending the arrow, tested it to see what the strength of them was. And he said he was sold on them after that. And he said in that article, he shot nothing but river cane arrows. And in our language, we call that koha. Koha. And arrow maker, I think, is Klehia. Klee. That's the way we say arrow in our Muskogee language. So, you know, we had to have some pretty good Klehias around to make good arrows. And what the judge was talking about earlier about the penetration of river cane after they splintered into male, they were saying these guys were shooting these arrows at 50 steps into male, and that was covered over a basket and penetrating it. Of course, they were splintering out when it hit. So, yeah, there's a lot to say about river cane, but you have to do a lot of experimenting with it, and it only takes a little time to do that. But what's time, you know? And all of this takes time to do. But you've got the kind of material we have on the table. You can use for tips. You can use regular field tips to tip these if you want to go with Port Orford. And I usually recommend anybody who's shooting a stick bow, his first stick bow, I usually recommend he shoot a Port Orford cedar shaft. And those are pretty straightforward. You don't have to, there's not a whole lot to making an arrow at a Port Orford cedar. You stain them, cut your nocks, put your fletchings on, cut them to length, of course. And everyone who knows a little bit about arrows should know your right arrow length, what your pull length is. That's really important. So, and the strength of your bow. But getting your own arrow shafting from Port Orford cedar is pretty easy to do. And you can use artificial sinew, that's this stuff here, to wrap your fletching with. If you use Port Orford cedar, that's what I've wrapped these with, is that right there. And it'll hold up pretty good for a while, but a fella really needs to put a little glue on that, because this is nothing but nylon, and when you strip that down to making a strand out of that, you don't want to use that whole single ply of the artificial sinew. I usually strip mine down into 3 sections about 2 feet long. Then I'll wax them real good after I get my fletchings put on, and then I'll tie them on and tie them down maybe 3/8 of an inch here and above up here.
All right, that's going to do it for us here this week. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in and making us the #1 source for Native American news here in Green Country. And I want to thank the crew here as well, working hard this week to get those stories. I want to thank the people at the Tobacco Prevention Office and everything like that for inviting us up for the conference. And so we'll see you guys next week. We'll have a lot more great stories, and we're pressing forward to the 100th episode. So next week, we'll see you same time, same place, right here on Native News Today.